Have you noticed that super teams just don't work well anymore? Because I've definitely noticed that teams who decide to load up on star players actually end up being put in the worst position possible. You see, it was almost a requirement to employ a lot of star talent on your team in the past. Almost every team that was winning a championship had a big three at least. The Warriors and Cavs just a few years ago, the 90s Bulls, 2008 Celtics, 2013 Heat, and a lot more than that. The teams with as many star players as possible were usually dominating the league, and we can clearly see this is not the case anymore, that's for sure. Look, the current Clippers would be considered a super team considering they do have two players on the team who won an MVP award and another two that actually finished as MVP candidates. The Suns right now would also be an example. I mean, they have KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, who are all some of the best scorers in recent years and have all been all-stars as well. But the Suns record isn't really that good while I'm recording this video, and the Clippers are 20-12 right now, which is decent, but it doesn't really reflect their current roster. Plus, they were negative not too long ago. Regardless though, it's obvious that super teams today usually become failures, but why? I really think a huge reason that adding maximum talent on a team doesn't work out anymore is because players have become so much more individualistic and they put themselves over the team's success. It's just sad. It's all about getting the best stats and not about setting their own teammates up. All-stars are used to having the ball in their hand and taking matters into their own hands, and this causes a lack of chemistry and a lot of dysfunction. It's funny because the Clippers were doing so bad when they had Russell Westbrook starting earlier in the season, but they've played better ever since he decided to take a step back and come off the bench for the sake of his own team. So I can applaud Westbrook for that at least. Unfortunately though, most players who were all-stars at one point, they don't want to admit their faults and take that step backwards. That's the reality. There has also been less of an emphasis on defense as well. We all know that, but leaning on offense isn't likely going to win you a championship either. Nowadays, the teams with the most superstars are teams that are also horrible on defense. The Suns, for example, only thought of adding pure scores to their team, and now they have the 16th worst defensive rating in the league, and just last year they had the 7th best, so their defense definitely got worse this year. That defense is not good enough to win championships, unfortunately for them. What people don't understand though is that when a team decides to target superstars so they can actually build a super team, they're almost always going to destroy their defense in the process because they have to trade their depth and solid defensive role players just so they can get one really good scoring star. Their offense likely won't even increase as much as it should because they gave away several players for one player who's going to hold the ball more and potentially mess up that offense. Sure, I mean, they'll score a little bit more, but at what cost? It just isn't worth it. It's just dumb. Now, another thing I have to mention is that a top-heavy team with several superstars but no depth are so screwed if one of their top players get injured. They basically turn into a G League team. I mean, look at the Suns when Beal and Booker were injured. Yeah, I know, I'm mentioning the Suns again, but they're the best example I can give right now. The Harden, Kyrie, Durant Nets also had this issue because that trio almost never played together, so they couldn't build good chemistry either. It was just a wreck. To be honest, it actually amazes me how slow in the head some of these GMs have to be to make the same mistake over and over again. It's as if they forgot that they have to actually build a balanced team that will work together. And with that said, now you guys may be wondering what a GM should do instead and what an actually good team would look like. And being the ultimate basketball expert that I am, I'll tell you what a good team looks like. What I've noticed in today's league is that the teams that have a main superstar and a sidekick lesser star usually do the best and they go the furthest in the playoffs. Look at Jokic and Murray, Giannis and Middleton, Butler and Adebayo, Tatum and Brown. These teams have all had playoff success and none of them were considered super teams. All these teams ended up revolving around their one superstar and have a great complementary sidekick who can take some pressure off the best player and really support them. A good team doesn't need a starting lineup filled with superstars. It needs one Batman and one Robin that can rise in the playoffs and needs a good supporting cast around them that can actually play defense. Now, teams in the past used to struggle having good offense, which is a reason reason why they would load up on stars so they could balance their defense with some more offense. But today, since scoring is so inflated, they have to do the opposite and, you know, get players who will focus on actually hustling and playing defense, not just offense, because literally that is not the only thing that goes into the game. GMs don't seem to understand that. Also, GMs should be looking for players who can actually work under the coach's system, and I think that's really overlooked. Each coach has their own way they like to run their offense and defense, and there's certain players who can fit the coach's system so much better than others. This might be why you'll actually see a player that plays amazing on one team and then gets traded and instantly becomes trash. The last thing to mention is that a team obviously needs to make sure that their players aren't super injury prone and don't have a history of many bad injuries. They can't control if a player gets injured, but when looking for players to add to the team, a concern of injury should be a big factor in deciding. Because why the hell would a team trade valuable pieces for a player that won't even be playing half the season? I'm looking at the Clippers right now, who literally have 3 of their top players who don't even ever play more than 60 games a season. Enough said. The last true super team who won the championship was the 2018 Warriors, and they might be the last for a while because super teams don't work in the modern day. Plain and simple. They're all flash, they don't get results. This is all just my 2 cents though. I'll see you.